Oh, you called us the 10 boys?
Yeah, you said congrats,
Nice.
10 boys.
Nice. There's 10 boys.
You got too horny, and that's why.
I don't want him to come. Jake, how horny does this make you?
Very horny.
It's one big joke. Believe me, Minnesota sports in all sorts. You see, they know it's never gonna get easy. You see, they know it's Minnesota, constant pain and misery.
And I'm a part of Al Qaeda.
It's 10K TV. It's one big joke. Believe me, Minnesota sports in all sorts.
Dude, he could turn Daniel Jones into Brett Favre.
Minus the penis pics.
Yeah. You can legally smoke crack.
What is a DVOA?
I went dicks, vaginas, or ass.
I think that's what it is.
Don't know much except to yell.
We're still awesome.
Yeah, the
but-
Wild, they haven't lost in the last like 16
They've
against
owned the Hawks.
Hawks. It's
Yeah.
been like 4 years.
After the Hawks owned us. For
Yeah, well, in
ever.
the most
During the
important parts,
heydays,
too.
yeah.
Like my entire childhood.
Oh, it was just painful. The one series we could have won was the one where we beat the Avalanche,
Yep.
and
Took 'em
Kemper
to
got
6.
hurt,
Yeah.
and we had to play Brizgalov, and
Yep.
we actually outchanced him in that series. But that was the
100%.
stanchion one. Yeah, that was the.
That was the one, Patty Kane. I was watching in my buddy's basement. We thought we were going to Game 7 for sure, and it hits the stanchion out in front of the net, and he scores. I'm like,
Oh, and did it hit his?
no, it hit the stanchion,
The
and
stanchion
right
kicked
to
right
Kane.
to the slot.
Right to
Oh.
Kane. Yeah, right to Kane with a wide open net.
The
and he
most
just
money
buried it.
player in the
Yeah,
league.
yeah, it just
Which
Yeah.
goal am I thinking of where it went off the glass and then off the goalie's back, off Dubnik's back into the net?
Oh, that did happen.
That was
I
against
can't
the Hawks,
remember.
too, I think.
That also might have been against the. Yeah, we've had some bad playoff
Like the
losses
worst.
to
Well,
those
like,
guys.
wasn't it? We did face them the first time the Wild made the playoffs in a little bit. It was their first year before that long
Didn't
stretch.
Doobie beat the Blues?
Yep.
And then we played
Yep.
them.
Yeah.
and they got
And then I
swept.
think that's
the one.
when
you're
they're
that's
talking
the one
about.
you're
Yeah,
talking about,
That's
yeah.
the one.
Yes, the guy,
It
whoever
wasn't
shot
Bickle's
it,
OT goal.
skied the net with it. It
Yeah.
hits the glass off Doobie's back.
Well,
in the
that
net.
series, I mean, when we beat them, the Blues in 6, I thought, they're not getting swept. There's no way they get swept. And
They got swept.
They got swept.
Yeah. At least it was the second round, though.
Hey.
I love that.
Yeah, I know you do.
talent.
Maybe we'll just start there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, we're recording, so
Joined by a very special guest friend of ours, Rinkside reporter for the Wild, Mr. Kevin Gorg.
Great to be here, guys. I love your new digs. I love walking around here, taking a look at this. I mean, this would be the great place to, whether you're watching a Wild playoff game, a Vikings game. This is spectacular, and looking forward to the conversation. It's a really fun time of year right now to be a hockey fan. I know we're going to get into the Four Nations, but hockey on the boys' high school side starts their section playoffs. The girls are on the cusp of the state tournament. College hockey's got the pairwise rankings. We're all sweating that. Who's going to be seeded? Are the Gophers going to be a 1 seed? Can they make a run? And then once the Wild get back to business this weekend, we got the big push to the playoffs, and then playoff hockey is back. And I think this team not only will make it, but could be a factor when they get there. So it's exciting.
You know who's not on the inside of the pairwise rankings? North
Stop.
Dakota.
Stop.
North Dakota's not there.
Stop.
you know the Bulldogs.
Catching strays already.
Hey,
Unbelievable.
I
I
was hoping we weren't going to bring up college hockey.
Well, you kind of we can start there because Wild prospect Zeev Buyum, I heard he got
True,
into
he
it
got in
at the end of.
scrap. Yeah,
got into- they took the gloves off and the helmets off, and they're scrapping. So I think he's ready for the NHL. He should be back up here soon.
I just hope everybody understands that what Brock Faber has done can't always be the case. Like
Right.
Zeev's
No.
going to be a great player.
Yep.
Brock made that transition way too seamless. That is
Yeah,
not
that was
the norm.
weird. It was weird.
And truthfully, if you gave the Wild coaching staff the truth serum from that stretch when he played those 4 or 5 games end of the year, they were never planning on using him. They were the Wild had clinched. They had over 100 points. They just wanted to see what they had to work with. And he played so damn well that it flipped the script. And then he got in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's in the playoffs.
And he looked even better. And the rest is history, right? Like this kid he's special. We're watching him at the Four Nations right now play huge minutes against the world's very best players. Zeev's going to be great. And he's going to be fine. And I have a real sneaky feeling that he'll be on this roster come April whenever Denver's done making their run. They look like another team that could be at the Frozen Four in St. Louis this year. But no, this kid's terrific. He's a winner everywhere he's gone. He wins. I think he's going to fit in really, really well. And the Wild right now, I think if you're a fan and you're watching this Four Nations thing play out, you got to feel pretty good about this roster.
Yeah.
You know, your best player isn't there. Kirill's still mending, but the guys you have there all look the part, and they look the part against the absolute best of the best. So the core of this team, I believe it. I've said this on my podcast, Wooden Sticks. This group in the next 2 or 3 years is making a cup run. I have no doubt, and I am a typical Minnesota sports fan that's near 60 now. I'm going to be 58 this week, that I've been jaded, I've been beat up, I've been punched, I've been knocked down. So I have in the back of my mind, don't say it, don't believe it, right? Like I mean, the old Lucy and the Charlie Brown football trick. Yeah. But I genuinely believe this outfit, with Bill Guerin running the show, with Hines and this coaching staff, with the young panel they have, this is the group that's finally going to get it done, and we are due, and Minnesota needs this.
Yeah. Do we dare say that the window is opening? That's another scary thing to say.
Yeah. Because when it closes, it's so depressing.
And, and there's been a lot of teams with open windows, like the Rangers, who have done absolutely nothing.
Yeah, the Rangers are rough this year.
Even when they go all in at the deadline, they somehow get worse. So it's
think of Toronto too, guys.
Yeah.
When you think of the Maple Leafs and that hockey mecca, you know, the whole country pulling for, you know, they're like the Yankees or the Red Sox. Pick your team between the Canadians and Toronto, but that window appears to be going in that direction. Now, it's not closed yet. They still have a really good roster, and they've got goaltending this year that looks like it might be different, because that's been a real tough area for them. But time and time again, that group in Toronto has been one of the betting favorites to win the Cup. And I'm talking 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
And they just can't get it done.
It's like the first round every year, too.
And it's brutal, because it is the first round. They don't even get a sniff in the playoffs. With that roster, with those big-time stars they've got on that roster, I can't imagine feeling that pressure now when the window's going the other direction.
Especially with what I think Marner, it is Marner. One of the guys, Nylander and Marner, they're coming up on a contract too.
Yeah, because I think they just re-signed
signed one of the two. I don't know.
Re-signed Tavares in the offseason, I believe, last season. But
they've got an aging roster.
Yeah,
You look at the Wild's roster, and you look at, you know, Boldy's 23, Faber's 23. You got Kaprizov still in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Zeeves coming. You've got a core of young players in this organization that are going to be here for a long time.
Yeah.
And so you don't have that worry. What you have to figure out, if you're Minnesota, and this year especially, is can you make any moves here at the deadline? The deadline, I think, is March 7th. And Bill Guerin is so aggressive, and he's so sharp at finding ways to manipulate the system and get guys in and you know, finesse the finances. Can you make any moves this year? And I know Brock Nelson's been talked about a ton. And I think if you listen to Michael Russo, which we all do, he's such a great source to have. You know, by next year, this thing could be done. He's going to be a free agent this summer, and I think he wants to play for his hometown team. But is there a way Bill Guerin can make a move like that and be creative with the financing to put this team over the top? Because they're right there now. And if Kirill comes back and he's Kirill, look out, because this team's got something. I mean, we've seen it all year long, guys. This team has something. And I think this is one of those years where, you know, you're going to have to beat a Winnipeg or a Dallas in round one, and that does sound daunting. And truthfully, watching Hellebuck at the Four Nations,
terrifying if you're playing against them.
I kind of think it'd be better for us to play Dallas, which is no bargain, obviously.
No.
We've got some skeletons in that closet, but we'll take it because Hellebuck and Winnipeg right now are scary, and they're not getting enough credit nationally. I don't know why people aren't talking about this hockey team. They're a freaking wagon, and they've got the best goaltender in the world, and they're physical and they're fast. So if you can avoid them in round one, probably a good thing.
Yeah, I'm looking for Kuznetsov. He's turned that offensive side a little bit on, and if he can get rolling, like I mean, we saw him in the KHL. He's an electric player. He's a water bug out there, man. He scoots, and if he can find the offensive side of the game, that bottom six is going to look real good too. I mean,
I think the break was good for the Wild for a lot of their players. That's one player I would tell you the break was not good for, because we saw something in the 2 weeks before the break that we hadn't seen from him yet. And watching practice and seeing this kid develop, we've known that that's there. You mentioned the speed. It's apparent he's got that, but he hadn't had the confidence to go to the middle part of the rink. He hadn't been able to really make plays. But that was coming, and the last 2 weeks, he was phenomenal. He's one of their best players, and that's the kind of depth player that pushes you over the top. You know what you're going to get from those top couple lines, but at some point, you're going to need somebody in the third and fourth line to score big goals and weird goals in big spots. And, you know, come playoff time, Ryan Hartman's going to be back. He can be that X factor on that third line. But here's a guy, you make a great point, on that fourth line that could really do some damage.
Yeah.
Short-handed plays. We've seen him
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
unbelievable
Yep.
plays short-handed. Speed kills in this league, and he's a guy that I would keep an eye on here down the stretch for sure. Great call.
Him and Ogren. I just want to see Ogren. He's a little younger, and
He is. He's a little
You
green.
got to
but
give him time.
You see the
but
talent.
Yes,
I mean,
there's
with,
talent there.
with Ogren, you see the way he shoots the puck.
Yes.
You see the rink vision, and it's starting to come together. It's not all the way there yet, but it is certainly coming. And this kid is going to be a player. He's built like a power forward in
Yeah.
this league, and he plays the game that way. And you've seen little sparks here and there, which is typical of a young player that's still a little bit kind of figuring things out. I've been doing this job. This is my 19th year covering the Wild on the sidelines, and this is as excited as I've ever been about not only the team we have right now, but where this team is going in the next
Yeah.
calendar year. It's really a great time
You can go up
to
and
be a
down
Wild
the
fan.
prospect list. I mean,
my gosh.
Yurov coming over. He's going to be
Juracek's been a blast
Yeah.
when he does play.
Yeah.
I tell you what,
His hands, man.
you start to
I forgot about him on the back
Shit.
end. I mean, Jesus.
The defense is going to actually be a really competitive to get like a bottom pair
I
spot.
know,
When's
like-
the last time we started thinking
Yeah.
about where are these guys
Yeah.
going to fit?
Yeah.
Usually I'm scared to look at Russo's lines. I just try
Yeah,
to
you
cover up
cover
the
the
bottom
bottom
of it.
half
I'm
of the
like, oh,
defense.
Faber, Middleton, Brodeen, Spurgeon. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Like keep my hand there. Although
Merrill's
we've been saying it. I think it's time we got to give John Merrill a little more respect
Absolutely.
this year.
He's looked
He's having a
fantastic.
great year.
Yeah,
doing his
he's looked
role.
Great.
Yep. And he doesn't have to be a superstar. He has to go out
No.
there, kill some penalties, and
Block
play
some
that role.
pucks.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's what he does. Like
Yeah.
he is solid, and that's all you need from John Merrill. And if he wasn't doing his job, Juracek could be up
Yeah.
here right now. The
Yeah.
fact that Juracek's able to slowly develop, get that time in the AHL, and that's the Bill Guerin way.
Yeah.
Like he made Matt Boldy start there. He
Yep.
gets the process. He's lived it.
Yeah.
And people always ask me, why do you believe this team's going to win? Listen, the guy that's running the show here has multiple cups. He's done it as a player. He's done it as a manager. He knows what the team is supposed to look like, smell like, and feel like. And look at some of the moves this guy has made. And I'll start with Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah.
I was blown away. I'm like, what are we doing? Remember that day? Like it was
Yeah.
trade deadline, and you knew they were going to make some moves. And I'm like, none of us
No.
saw that coming. And now I get it. I'm like, to have this guy here, not only playing at a high level, but then to see the ripple effect that Marc-Andre has had on that locker room, and knowing that at least half the roster are these young, wide-eyed kids like Marco Rossi, seeing this Hall of Famer, seeing this legendary figure, and learning how to practice properly. Yes, he has an effect on Gustafsson and Volstead, but then the other young players on this hockey team, I mean, if you look at Matt Boldy and his practice habits from where he was day one to where he's now, he's always worked hard. But now he's like Kirill. He's become a rink rat where 45 minutes after practice, we're getting done with media availability, and he's still out there working on something.
I've heard about that. That
I'm
like
telling you, Marc-Andre Fleury,
Yeah.
you'll never be able to measure the full effect that he's had on this hockey team. But when you're starting to affect guys like Matt Boldy, it makes a difference, right? It's an impact you can put your finger on.
It is kind of funny because yesterday on the stream, Sarge will remember this when we were watching USA, Jake was telling us that he heard that Connor Hellebuck, when he's studying teams, he'll study like the sticks on the power play of the other team and how they curve and stuff so he can predict the shots.
Oh my God.
And I was like, meanwhile, we have Flower trying to take Brandon Duhame's tires off of his Jeep. But like same level of compete, same level of skill. It's incredible that Flower's doing this at 40
years old, guys.
Like,
And he's had a great year. Like his numbers.
Oh, yeah.
And I heard Pat Micheletti bring this up this week on local radio on The Fan. And it was a really good point that Mick made. If your team candidate, even if you're not going to start him, even if he's going to be your second or third guy, how do you not bring him to
Yeah.
the Four Nations
Yeah.
when it's in Montreal
yeah.
for the first half of this tournament? Knowing what we just witnessed a couple weeks ago in that same building, and knowing that Marc-Andre Fleury's numbers tell you this guy still has it.
Yeah.
Now, is he going to start over Jordan Binnington? Probably not.
No.
But how do you not want that guy with those 3 Stanley Cups in the mix? I still think
marketing
But I mean,
alone.
could he not play over Binnington? I mean, Binnington wasn't that sharp in the USA
I
game.
don't
And
disagree.
I don't see why he's not in the mix. That's kind
But
of
at age
that's a great
40,
point.
he should have been. I think he should have been considered, and I think there would have been a real positive effect on Team Canada. They can still win this thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's a coin flip game, in my opinion, later this week. But I don't know how. It was a great point by Pat Micheletti. So I'm not going to tell you I thought of it. He did, and then I started kind of thinking, yeah, it fits.
Yeah.
It
Well,
tracks.
think about the headlines. Fleury could finally be on the home team for the first time in Montreal.
Unbelievable. And the love he would have, the love he would have got.
They would have been chanting his name as he's sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't want to deal with the fact that they were going to say put in Fleury the whole time.
because
like if
that's
anything
a
came
good
up, I'm like,
point.
oh. And
Well,
maybe they were
and
thinking
they
about
would've.
that. I don't know.
They probably would have started booing the Canadian.
They
national team.
gave him.
They would have done. Team Canada would have
That would
done
have been
that.
pushing it, maybe.
Started Bennington over
They gave him
Fleury.
such a long ovation that he was getting uncomfortable on the ice. Like he was starting to like
Figure out,
stretch.
what
and,
do I
like,
do?
Yeah, he's like,
Like,
"What do I do? Do I like
We
start
were all
stretching?"
laughing,
or-
and we all got choked up. It
Yeah.
was
Oh, it
something
was
you just
awesome.
aren't used to seeing. It was
No.
organic. It
Yeah.
wasn't planned. And to see the officials and
Yeah.
both teams just kind of taking it all in and just looking around like this is
It was
incredible.
a feisty game, and all of a sudden the
And all of a
Montreal
sudden it's just a
people are
standing
stick
ovation.
tapping and they're clapping, and
And it's an old school fan base up
Yeah.
there. It isn't like United Center in Chicago. It isn't like Madison Square Garden. Like these fans at the Bell Center are old school. Like they will appreciate hockey at its highest level. For them to stop a game for 5 or 6
Yeah.
minutes and literally stand on their feet the entire time,
cheer.
it was hard not to get a little emotional watching that. I was lucky enough to be ice level right over Fleury's right shoulder, and you're spot on. Like it was awkward how long
he was
it
literally
what the
kind of like,
hell
"What am I doing?"
supposed to do?
Yeah.
And during the anthem, that was the other time he got caught off guard. There were these large roars, and you know when you're at the XL, you see the anthem and they show the Guardian and they show the crowd, but this camera guy a couple times went directly to Fleury during both of the anthems,
Oh, my
and the
goodness.
place roared. And Fleury at first was taken back, and then he looked up above at the jumbotron. He's like, and then he smiled, and
That's
you know,
awesome.
just kind of played out. It was a magical night. He got the shutout, and you know, just from talking to him all year long, Minnesota's become home for his wife and his beautiful kids. They're going to stick around. So no matter what, even though he is going to retire likely after this year, I still think he's going to be involved, and I think that's going to be so good for this team.
Yeah,
I
they
want
were-
him to go on one more run for him. I mean, just
Yeah.
like one more run
something.
for him, you know, like that'd be amazing.
I can't remember if it was on PA show or someone was talking about how like you got to think immediately after the year's over. Bill Guerin is going to say, "So I have this job waiting for you."
Yeah.
You know, whether
Yeah.
it's a
Whatever it is,
goalie specialist, whether it's something in the front office,
For
like
sure.
even if it's just helping develop the culture. Because it sounded like he was going to retire in Vegas. He was building a house out there, but then apparently he sold it. So the whole theory is that he's going to spend basically time here. I know he has a house in Montreal or just outside of it on a gorgeous river or something.
Sure, but this is going to be home.
This
and I
could
think
be
the kids are going
this
to go
could
to
be
school here.
a great life for him after hockey.
I heard that he's actually taking Connor Beaupre's job.
Is the E-Bug?
I heard Connor
don't do that to
Beaupre.
Connor. Connor loves that role so much, and he belongs there. He gets to train over there at Tria and practice once in a while. when they're
we love
concussive.
Connor. We love
Connor's
Connor.
great.
He's the greatest healthy scratch of all time.
He's great.
That's the healthy scratch we need to have. No
Yeah.
disrespect to Connor, but if we're facing Hellebuck and the Jets at any point, I don't want him out there between the pipes.
Yeah, that's, you know what? And I think he would agree as well. With
Yeah,
you
I
on
don't think he
that.
wants any part of that either.
I was texting him that day that he thought he was going to have to be the backup because if you remember, it was so Gustafson was hurt and Fleury Wallstad was starting, I believe, and
Fleury was really sick.
He was sick. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, he was
and
sick.
white as a ghost.
and Connor was like, "Yeah, I might have to sit on the bench." And I'm like, dude, imagine if you have to. I think we were playing the Oilers that night. I'm like, imagine if you have to go against McDavid and Draisaitl, or maybe it was the Abs. I was like, you got to go against
Either way,
McCarr and
either way.
McKinnon.
You're
and
screwed.
Yeah,
at
you're
the time, Rantanen, like, have fun out there, buddy. Like, I'll be watching from my couch.
No one
beer
is
in my
probably
hand.
This ain't the
peeing his
Minnesotan
pants.
Cup, buddy.
Yeah, that I can't even imagine even dressing and being there.
No.
Thinking, please,
No.
God, don't get hurt. Please don't
He
get hurt.
said he told me that they peppered him in practice just in case. Like they were going to make sure that if he had to play, he was at least serviceable.
Yeah.
I love
well,
that. I
but-
just think it's awesome. And just knowing him and
Yeah.
seeing him around the rink, how much he does thoroughly enjoy being a small part of it. It would be cool, honestly, at some point in a regular season game, not a playoff game. If he got in for even a cup of coffee, a little minute or two, it'd be kind of fun to see. We've seen these stories a couple years ago, wasn't it? Toronto or
there's
some
Toronto,
Zamboni driver, right?
Blackhawks.
They've done
Yes.
the account
Blackhawks,
in
the
Chicago.
Hawks.
He didn't. He's made like 10 saves and didn't give up any
it was
goals,
insane.
right?
Yeah,
He played
it was-
really well.
One of them got the win, didn't he?
2008 or
I
something.
can't remember what his name.
This was
2012,
20,
13.
I want to say it was like 2018.
Yeah.
They haven't made the playoffs in forever, so it was right
So
after their.
you've lost track of time.
He's lost track
all
of
blending
seasons. He's a
together.
bandwagon Blackhawk.
He's already on to 2030 strategy right now because that's what it's looking like right now.
Basically,
But Art might be through puberty by then. So
Yeah,
that's
maybe.
he looks like he's 12.
He might be
I
old
swear to
enough.
God.
He might be old enough to have his first beer by then.
That's crazy.
No, so you mentioned Four Nations. Obviously, the night that this comes out is the championship game.
Yes.
Honestly, one of the biggest sporting events I've probably ever been alive for.
It's a huge one.
And the fact that it's USA and Canada, you couldn't draw it up any better. No injuries on either side. It sounds like we're flying in Quinn Hughes for the game, which is interesting news to drop when we're recording this on Tuesday.
Yep.
So you think Sanderson is going to get the sniffles, or
It'll be curious if something like that happens. I do think it's hard if you haven't been there with the guys. Like there is a side of me that says, listen, he's probably one of their, if not their best defensemen, but the other guys have been putting the blood, sweat, and tears in. They've been out there. They've been doing it. It's a fine line. If someone's legitimately hurt, it'll happen. I don't think it will. And truthfully, you look at both sides, and they're both missing some pieces. So maybe that's fair. McCarr's back, though. And I think, if you're a fan of the red, white, and blue like we all are, that cannot be understated. The best defenseman on the planet didn't play
he's insane.
on Saturday. So that's a huge boost for Canada. And we'll see if the home ice advantage matters, because I think that crowd in Boston is going to be
Rowdy.
lit. It's going to be loud, and it's going to be nuts. And there's going to be the Kachuk factor. And that, to me, is far more important to whether there's an injury on the blue line that allows Hughes to play, is can both the Kachucks play and be effective? And I worry, because they've both now missed some time in consecutive games. And they don't play the style of game where you can run from anything. You've got to be out there running guys, taking hits, being in the mix. And so if they're not completely healthy, that's a problem for the U.S. for sure.
You saw it with the Florida Panthers in the Cup final. I think a couple years when they lost. I mean, he was he couldn't play. He couldn't play the last game. And
tried to play through it.
He
Remember?
tried to
He
play
was on
through
the
it,
bench.
but he
And
wasn't
his
as
team-
effective. And
So I mean, carry him off the ice.
Yeah,
That's how
yeah.
injured he was. Those guys are such dogs.
When they're healthy.
Such and I were playing beer league the other night in Vadnais, and before the game we were like trying to work out all these scenarios of how we could get Brady to play.
Get Brady on the first
Brady to
line
play for
with,
the Wild
with Boldy
somehow one
and-
day, 'cause
with Boldy and
You look up his
Kaprizov here in a
contract. Is
few
it up
years.
in 2027?
2027? His contract's up. So
Never know.
You don't
window's
know.
still
And
open. Then that
obviously,
window's still
window
open.
is
So
open.
maybe we can keep
and
it.
Bill
open.
Guerin's got a good relationship with
Yeah.
him.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I find that to be super interesting. And in Minnesota, to me, if you're out there looking, it's a building where when you come to St. Paul, every night it's full. So guys
Yeah.
love that.
Yep.
The facility they built over here at Tria is state of the art. Guys love that. And now you want to play with the best. Well, you've got Faber, you've got Boldy, you've got Kaprizov, you've got star power on this roster, where years ago, that's the uphill battle that the Wild were fighting year in and year out. So if you have a high-end guy that's a free agent and the Wild have the money, they can make that type of move. And they're in a very good place right now. And I do believe that while you're in position, I know you're a year away from that $15 million coming back to you.
Yeah.
While you're in position now, they've put themselves in a great spot with that unbelievable 18-4-4 start. Don't overlook what you have right now that's right here in front of you. And I think a lot of it does hinge on when Kaprizov comes back. If he looks like Kaprizov from the first 3 months of the season, or he looks like the Krill that just came back this last time, where you knew he wasn't right. We all sat there watching thinking he doesn't have that explosion. He's not the player he was early in the year. And so I love that they had the courage to shut him down, to have that surgery, to get him right. And the only reason they could do that is because of the start that they had.
We were talking about how Kirill being hurt for that month before he decided to come back was good for the team, because there was a point where it was only Kirill and the defenseman scoring, and like everyone else just couldn't hit the net. And it gave everyone else that sense of confidence, like, oh, wait, I can be a star on this team too, and actually put in goals. Like Boldy went on a hot streak. Rossi was at least a point per game.
Those are the two key ones, right?
Yep.
Because there was a sense of urgency when he went down because he had been on that run and he had been producing, to your guys' point, night in and night out, multiple points, these crazy stretches. Now all of a sudden he's out and you're missing a couple other pieces. And so now that forces the hand of young guys like Boldy and Rossi to get up and to carry that offensive load. They were on the same line. They put Zuccarello out there. And Zuccarello, again, we don't talk about him enough. He really makes things happen.
Yeah.
He is such a great playmaker. He's such a smart hockey player. And they got it going to the point where you're like, this team can win without Kirill, which we didn't know. Like it didn't look like as that run was happening right before he got hurt that was possible. And I go back to that win in Dallas right after the Christmas 3-day break, and
Huge.
Brock Faber scoring that goal, winning that game with that roster, missing who they were missing. Specifically, that was the day the Kirill news broke. To me, that win, I thought, really meant something at that time. And I think we're going to circle back to that win when those teams meet in the playoffs.
Well, and the Stars cheated. They practiced when they weren't supposed to practice.
How about, and again, Michael Russo cracking the case.
Oh, yeah, he was all over that.
Because he heard in a press conference, and this is Michael Russo, his life is this team and this league, and we're all better for it. I love Michael. He's a dear friend. He was listening back to a press conference, and one of the local beat writers asked the Dallas coach about skating some of the guys over the break. And Michael caught the question. Dallas destroyed the evidence, and Russo already had heard it and went on the case.
God.
Like, this is the kind of reporter we need and we love.
Well, that's why he's one of the best.
Oh,
Bring
nobody
value
better.
to the team.
Yeah, and they got caught with the hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah.
And don't think if these teams meet again in the playoffs that won't be a thing. It'll come back up and it'll be great.
Oh,
We
the
just
fans
call-
for Dallas is going to be coming after Russo, and
we can just call them cheaters. It's easy storyline for us.
I love that.
We can always revert to that. But really quick, going back to Four Nations, I think this tournament, by the way, is so much better than I think a lot of people thought it would be.
People didn't realize. I don't think people understood how much these guys cared.
Yeah.
We had a sense of it because we talked to the guys leading up to it, and you could sense the passion. It hit me when the guys on TNT interviewed Nathan McKinnon before the first game of the tournament, and he was as intense and as serious. I've seen the guy interviewed in all different forums. He was like breathing fire.
Yeah.
And that, to me, told you everything you needed to know. Here's one of the best players in the world that you would think in the back of his mind that, okay, I'm on the Avalanche. We're red hot. We got a chance to make a run of the cup. I'm going to go out here and tippy-toe around, maybe not get hurt. No, not how these guys are wired. They're all in.
They've been trying to kill each other. It's
been playoff hockey. And that's what, if it was going to be a thing, and if the Olympics are going to be a thing, it has to be playoff hockey.
Yeah,
it has to be
100%.
what we crave when everything's on the line. And that's how much it matters. When you're representing your country, it matters just as much as a Stanley Cup playoff game. And that's why this tournament has been spectacular. And that's why we had 4.5 million people watching that game on Saturday. And for all of us that love the game of hockey, we realize of the big four that we're fourth. But on that night, we were first.
Yeah.
NFL was done. NBA was doing their clown show that was the All-Star Weekend. Social media blew up. And I'm thinking as a hockey fan, this is what we need. And that is going to have a ripple effect into Thursday night, because those 4.5 and plus probably a few more million are going to come back to this and see just how special it is, and it's going to be unbelievably cool.
And Canada's going to come out hot. You know they are. I mean,
You're getting their best.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I know for sure is you're getting their best. The advantage that the U.S. has to exploit is between the pipes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bennington is solid, but he's not Connor Hellebuck.
No.
Hellebuck has to be better than Bennington. If he is, the U.S. is going to win that hockey game. If it's a wash, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think that the U.S. did a great job of frustrating the top weapons for Canada. McKinnon, McDavid, and Crosby had the physical contact and the lack of space that got under their skin, and they weren't allowed to make plays. And that adjustment within that game led to that victory. And the Slavin Faber thing is fascinating to me.
Holy crap.
Like, these two guys are so good together. And for all of us as Wild fans, you're like, okay, the biggest game on the planet, and they're going to play the most minutes, and they're likely going to play against Canada's best. I mean, how cool.
Yeah.
Insane.
Oh,
I mean, Faber playing 25 minutes. 25 minutes out there.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me. And
No.
you watch him play 25 to 30 minutes every night for this team, get beat up. He's so durable, and he's got such a great ability to play big minutes and not have his play taper off. He plays through everything. And I think because this tournament is such a big test pressure-wise, how lucky are the Wild to have guys like Faber, Boldy, Eck, and Brodeen having such an impact at that level. When they come back, the confidence they're going to have.
Oh, yeah.
Especially Boldy and Faber, because I think Brodeen and Eck both know they're elite at what they do. These are two young kids that probably had some nerves. And if you watch Brock Faber in the first 10 minutes of the tournament, he didn't look like Brock Faber.
Yeah.
Part of it was maybe the pairing from Hannafin to Slavin. But now the confidence these two guys must have. I mean, Matt Boldy out there, you watch this guy? Like
that tip he had last Wednesday was unbelievable from Faber. Like
ridiculous.
On top of Faber's ability to shut down, his play from the blue line is just as fun.
Oh, yeah,
everyone's producing for the Minnesota Wild players.
Yeah, Gustafsson was the only reason they made it to OT against Canada.
He was great. Like he was phenomenal in that
I was
game.
going to say Sweden didn't. I mean, they might have. They
didn't do him any favors.
They
in that
lost
first
two. They
period.
beat the U.S. when the U.S. wasn't really.
Sweden was the only team not to lose in regulation.
They had I thought. All they got to do is beat Finland, and they would have been there, and they would have been in.
Now, again,
so.
the game, to your point, would have had a different look if the U.S. if that game
would have been
mattered.
all in. Hellebuck would have started in net
For sure. So you look at this pragmatically, and you want the game on Thursday to be close. You want it to be physical.
Yeah.
You want it to come down to the last couple of minutes. That's all. I mean, I hope it's a really tight, close game, well played game. I want the stars on both teams to make plays. I want this to be great for the game of hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, I want the U.S. to win, but I want it to be because so many times there's this buildup, there's all this animosity, and then all of a sudden it's a 4-0 game, and then we're all sitting there like,
then
what
it's
happened?
the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, that was bad. Look, we have been spoiled here for a few years with the Super Bowl, but we don't want that to happen because that was hideous.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be what we want it to be. I think Boston will deliver. Just being there for regular season games, that's always a building that has some electricity, some juice to it. And with what's played out here so far, that's going to be the case when those players are out there getting ready to take the ice.
Let's do a little round table prediction, starting with you, Gorgie. What do you think the score is going to be? When we release this, it's going to be tonight. So what do you think the score will be?
I'm going to go 4-3. I'm going to go 4-3 U.S. And I'm leaning towards there's a decent chance we get extra time. But I think there's going to be enough offense in the game where you're going to probably have to get to 4 to win it. I think there's going to be enough physical play where there's going to be some special teams involved. So I think it's going to be a tight game. I'm going to go 4-3 U.S.
Okay. I'm just going to write these down. For me, I'm going to go – let's go 5-3. I'll say we have 4 and we get an empty netter.
I like that.
And the roof blows off the TD Garden.
It will for sure.
In that 8 p.m. start game, those fans are going to be drunk. That's
in Boston.
rock.
They're going to be lit. Yeah, they're going to be all juiced up.
They sell those. Spoke Z was telling us they sell those jumbo beers there.
Oh my God!
And every time the camera's on them, everyone always has 2 of them in their hands.
Yeah, I mean they're going to have about 4 in them before.
Oh, it's going to be a bad night to be a Canadian. Dude, that's gonna be a fun game, a fun environment. But
how about this? How about we get 3-2 overtime win for the U.S. and one of the Tkachuk brothers gets a golden goal. Then it's going to be the U.S.'s version of the Crosby goal.
I love that.
That'd be amazing. We need our own.
Sarge liked the NBA All-Star game better, so I don't even know if he'll have an opinion.
He really enjoyed watching Wembanyama and Chris Paul do their little...
I saw the highlights on Twitter, but I was going to go 4-3 as well, and I'm not going to stray away.
Good.
But I think it's going to be done in regulation. I think we're going to do it.
Dang. That would be hell if we're all predicting 4-3-2. We're all predicting Hellebuck to give up no, he gave up 2 in the first game, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do think.
No, 3-1, wasn't it 3-1?
It's 3-1.
3-1. He let in 1 and 1.
Okay, so he's never even let in 2.
Canada's going to come out.
Yeah, they're
going to
come out swinging for sure.
Crosby will not go pointless in this game. I don't think.
No chance.
No chance.
Yeah, Cale Makar being back is going to.
Oh, that's huge for them. That's a boost right there.
Well,
Their power play.
That's the thing. When you can march out Makar, McKinnon, McDavid, and Crosby, I don't even care the
that's
fifth
a cheat
guy.
code.
It's a video game.
I think it's Braden Point.
That's if you go XXA, left button up, right button down, and you score every power play.
Yeah.
That's the cheat code.
Wasn't that funny the first game when they got that power play?
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, literally scored 10 seconds later,
and it was beautiful goal too.
Oh
beautiful
God,
goal.
it was so predictable. But that's the talent they have, and that's what the U.S. was able to avoid this past weekend in that matchup.
Yeah,
Is they
stayed
were
out.
really, for as physical as they were, for as intense as the game was, they were really disciplined,
Yep.
and that carried them through.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Can't wait to watch.
There is a part of me though, just as a lifelong Minnesota sports fan, that has this deep
Come on.
feeling in the pit of my stomach.
Come on.
Big
Don't do it.
games. Big
Yeah, but
games.
This is the United States. This isn't.
No,
this
it's
isn't
Minnesota.
This isn't
Although
Minnesota.
there's only one
You'd be
side now that
surprised,
has
dude.
Minnesota players, so there's that. But
Yeah,
no.
that's true.
I think you got to look at it this way. No matter what happens in that game, the guys that we sent to the Four Nations are
True.
going to be so much better for
yeah.
having gone through that whole thing. And Gustafson, even though he only started the 2 games and played 4 periods, he proved in that first showdown in Canada at the Bell Center against the greatest players in the world that he can compete. That's got to be in the back of his mind. He's still a goaltender that's trying to make that climb, and he's still a guy that they're going to need this year come playoff time. So the dividends we're going to get. So as a Minnesota sports fan, win or lose, this has been a win for the Minnesota guys that were involved. The only thing, if you're really a true Minnesota sport, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to talk injuries. Let's just keep them healthy and let's win the game. But that's, to me, the bigger danger.
I like this. You're seeing the big picture.
Yeah, I'm thinking playoffs.
Yeah, we gotta keep
we're
'em
6 weeks
healthy.
away from the playoffs starting, and this team, to me, is set up to be a real problem when the playoffs do start. And the division's so good. You look at Winnipeg, Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota. Whoever comes out of that division, to me, is going to be the favorite to win the cup. And it should be right now Winnipeg, and it rightfully is. Yeah. But don't doubt that this team, and the fact that they're likely going to have to go on the road, we're good with that too.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been mediocre at home. They've been dominant on the road all year long. So people keep saying, what if they fall into a wild card spot? I don't care. And they're probably
just get
better
in
off.
this division.
Just get in, and whatever they've found on the road, it's legit. And they've won in all the big buildings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've gone to Florida and won. They've gone to Carolina. They've gone to Tampa. They've gone to Dallas. They've won in all of these buildings for a reason. They're a confident team away from home. And so I have a lot of faith that this could be a year where they make a little bit of a run. And I still think we're a year or two ahead of that window really being fully open. So good for us.
Yeah, this is just icing on the cake
for sure.
This year,
this was not expected to be a playoff team. If you go back to September and look at all the national pundits, less than 50% picked the Wild to be a playoff team. And so you're right. This is a bonus. And why not use that start to your advantage? You've got young players. You've got Zeev on the horizon. This thing can come together in a hurry. And I do believe the biggest factor is going to be getting Kirill back and making sure he's Kirill. And they gave him this time off. I don't care if we don't see him to the end of March, as long as when we get him back, he is fresh, he is ready, and he's Kirill. And if he is, that's going to be scary, guys, because remember, he's a guy like Faber that can play a ton of minutes.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect him. He'll want to play 25, 30 minutes, and it doesn't affect him. He's got a different engine than any other player I've been around, and now you give him all this time off to be fresh.
Yep.
My goodness, is that going to be a real advantage for Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, I've said, I think we talked about this before beer league hockey too. I think
Did you guys win?
Kaprizov. We
Heard
did
about this beer? Oh,
yeah,
no.
we won 13-4 on
we
Sunday.
crushed them this week. We
Wow. I had the stat.
I think they had a couple Kale McCarrs out on
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah,
the other goalie got
I love it.
peppered. Usually it's
Their
me
goalie
getting
got
peppered.
peppered that. Oh God, it was
Put
bad.
13 on him. I love it. No
Yeah.
calling the dogs off. Hey,
Well, some of us did. Me and Bob did. We took but everyone else they're still going hard, which I love it. but-
They paid their $280 to
yeah,
play
and that's what I said to him. Hey, that's what I said on the bench. I
They're
said, "You
scoring
guys
goals."
keep going hard." When I got off the last one, I was like, "Let's get 15."
I love it. keep the foot on the
Put
gas.
on the gas.
Well, when I'm on the other side of that, because I'm a goalie like you, whenever
he's the
whenever
goalie.
another team is doing that to me, I tell them, I'm like, keep shooting, please. Like, it'd be less fun for me if you stop trying.
See pucks.
Yeah,
Well,
like
it's funny you say that. Sometimes I'll be going on a back check and I'll just go, I want Jack to get some action here. So I just leave the
beer
guy
league,
open.
man.
you know?
Yeah, that is.
I said that
you're not out
last
there
week.
to get
They scored a back door and I skate over. I go, my bad, dude. I let that guy skate right to the back post. I saw him. I'm like, I should probably get that guy.
average back check rate is a little below 30%.
Yo, on this team's bad.
Maybe it's around 20.
Dude, they stay at the.
You
they
play
stay
every
at
night,
the-
or are there two guys? How does the goaltending rotation work?
Well, we only play once a week, but
Yeah.
then I play in another league too, so I play twice a week.
Oh wow, that's
He had to go
ambitious.
back to back this week, though. He had to
One of
play
the other
both
goalies
sessions.
didn't show.
Yeah.
so I had to play.
I'll tell you
second
that
game.
my memories of beer league, the depression was always if you didn't have enough goalies and you put that board up with the four corner
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It's just not the same.
No,
Yeah.
You
it's
got to have a
not.
guy.
And if
gotta
you're
have a
already
guy.
there and there's another game immediately after, like you might as well play two.
Why wouldn't
As
you?
long as the first, when
You're
the
young.
right, when the first game is brutal though, then you're like, okay, I might have to just.
Yeah, if you get
You,
peppered
he
with
saw
80
like
shots,
10 shots in the
Yeah.
first one.
I
So
might
you
have to
were good.
fake an injury game too,
Yeah.
but
You almost did.
I almost did. Well, I've had a nagging hip. I might end up on the injury report. By the
day-to-day.
way.
Yeah.
day
You're
to
day to day
day.
for sure.
I could have
Are you
used.
hurt or
I
are you
coulda
injured?
used
You're
a Four
fine.
Nations break. Well, I did actually give myself one in Arizona, but I just played golf like 6 times.
Yeah, so his
that
hip didn't get
doesn't
any
help the
better.
I'll
hip
stretch the hip out in
lot
that
of
warm weather,
rotation.
that desert air. That was good for you. That's a good recovery.
I did drink about 30 beers a day though, so I
30, huh? Holy.
No, I'm not 30. Close though.
You got a rack of hams a day.
Damn it, where was I going? Oh, speaking of other young guys, that shirt right there, Marco Rossi,
Yes.
not a bust.
Not a bust at all. And we can put the trade talk to bed.
Yep. Put it
This
to
is a
sleep.
kid that just keeps getting better. We don't know what the ceiling is. We know that he's climbing. And you go back to a couple years ago, 19 games, 1 assist. We're all like, oh no.
Yeah.
What do we got here? And then last year you saw a legitimate step and you're like, oh my God, this kid can play. And then he's gone to another level. You kind of figured last year, maybe that's who he is. And that was fine. He's going to be a 20, 25 goal guy. Now he's showing signs of being a 30, 35 goal guy. Who knows down the road, another year or two, maybe a 40 goal guy. You can't coach some of the things he does, the instincts he has. And what gets, I think, overlooked with Marco Rossi is his durability. Played all 82 last year.
Yeah.
And he's on pace to play almost every game this year. So he has that innate ability to stay healthy. He trains his butt off, and he has the hands and the vision to make plays. And so if you put him with the right players, we've seen it now throughout the balance of this season. He can be an electric player. And my God, I mean, another guy in his early 20s that's got all this upside. This is a team that's built to not only be a winner now, but be a winner for years to come.
Well, it's almost like he was off to a slow start in the NHL because he lost a year.
Yeah,
of,
like almost was in a hospital
development.
bed,
I mean,
like
COVID was rough, right? He had that heart issue.
yeah.
And, for a young guy to have to deal with that, I remember, his family really had a hard time figuring out, like, what was the right plan? Would he ever play again? And
that was the
that
question.
was a legitimate question. And so he had a different mind frame when he first got here. And I think the turning point that he'll forever look back at in his career is when he stayed back. And I know he missed his sister's wedding, and there's been a lot of conversation about that. But he stayed back and trained in Minnesota with this team, and that had a huge effect on him. And he's done that now for back-to-back summers, and he's talked about how much bigger and stronger he's gotten.
Yep.
And he has figured out that if you're going to score in this league, you can't stay to the outside part of the rink. You've got to get to the middle of the rink. You've got to get to the net. And if you look at the goals he's scored this year, 90% of them have been where you could literally reach and touch the blue paint.
the
Like he's-
mixer.
The mix. Hey, throw it in the mixer.
Throw it in the mixer.
Yeah,
That's
throw
all
it
you
in
have
the
to do.
mixer.
That's where you score goals in this league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, coming from Europe, that's not how they play over there.
No.
And so it's an adjustment for these guys. And Rossi has figured it out, and he's put the work in to do it. He's a fantastic kid. This kid is the most lovable, positive, just I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to have success. I'm a team guy. He's not looking to pad his stats. He's the kind of guy you want in your organization. And he's another guy that I look at Marc-Andre Fleury and I say, how lucky are we that we've got guys like Rossi learning from this Hall of Famer?
Yeah. Well, and especially too, you go back to the Bill Guerin way. Remember, was it last year when he was kind of off to a slow start and Billy sent him back down, and everyone thought this is the end of his road. See what you can get in a trade for him. He's going back to the AHL again after he makes the team and was supposed to stay up. Plays pretty much a ton of games in the AHL. Comes back up this year, looking better than ever.
Yeah.
Bill Guerin has been patient with some of these young players, and it's paid off for him. I think he's kind of done the same thing with Gustafsson. I think everybody thought last summer he was going to deal the Gus bus, and he's been very patient. He hasn't panicked, and I think in that role, if you're going to be the GM that ultimately has to make that decision, you have to live and die by making those hard decisions. And sometimes you're better off waiting. And sometimes it's not going to work out. Not every time. If you give a kid a little extra time in your organization, is it going to pan out? But in these two specific cases, it absolutely has. And so with Rossi now, you've got a guy that the whole trajectory of his career has changed. And, part of that goes to Bill Guerin sitting down and saying, listen, this isn't good enough. You've got to be more. And again, the guys look at Bill Guerin as a guy that's been there and done that. So if he's telling you that you're not doing enough, then you do need to stick around in the summer. You do need to put on 10 to 15 pounds of muscle and be a different player so you can make a difference for this hockey team. And Rossi's done the work, but that doesn't happen if, to your point, he isn't called out by the GM.
Yeah.
I think, God, every single day that Bill Guerin's our GM and not some of these random Twitter users that you see
True.
after, a loss.
Oh,
we
these
need to
Twitter-
trade Rossi, trade Gus. We need to go out there.
Twitidiots, yes.
Oh,
This
my
is-
goodness
That's an awesome
gracious.
transition because
Oh.
I want to introduce a new segment called Agree or Disagree with Takes from the Athletic comment section following a wild loss.
Yes. Oh, this is a fantastic game. Oh, they're the best. I mean, they seriously are. You go under there and you're just like,
I can't wait to hear
Guys,
some of these.
guys.
There's one I actually agree with. It sounds kind of crazy, but I'm kind of on board with
Oh,
it.
boy.
But all right, let's start with this one. There are 2 defensemen in Iowa who are better talents than a couple of the NHL level, and it's hard to get excited about a team that doesn't ever field its best possible lineup. I'm wondering who those are. Is it
Oh,
Dermott?
he's talking about Juracek for
yeah,
sure.
Juracek
Yeah.
And the Dermott thing is fine because, this is your 7th or 8th guy. And this is you'll watch now in the next couple of weeks if a couple of players are back and healthy and there's some decisions to be made, he's the guy you likely have to put on
Sure.
waivers. And that's a shot at a guy we talked about earlier, John Merrill, who frankly is better than them. And it's a tired complaint that you get on social media. You have to respect guys with experience, especially in that role of third set of D. Our top 4 carry this team, and they're going to be the difference makers when push comes to shove this year come playoff time. But you have to, I think, appreciate the veteran players like a Bogosian and like a Merrill that bring that credibility to the rink every single night. And I understand that you want to see the young guys and Juracek, the timing of him going back down after that goal that he scored, and he looked fantastic. He still has work to do in the defensive zone. And why force it and risk a kid going the wrong direction in his career when you can let him get that confidence and that ice time? He's not going to play top 4 here.
Right.
He just isn't with our top 4 defensemen being healthy. So why would you want him to be a 5th or 6th guy and play 8 to 12 minutes a night when he's down in Iowa playing 20 to 25 minutes a night and he's on the power play? I just don't get it.
Yeah.
And I think the Merrill, it is tired because at this point, he's played well this year.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Last year, was he bad? Yes, he did not play well last year. He had a rough season. It happens. These guys are humans. I mean, they're going to go through rough periods of play. It happens, but just to judge a guy's whole career, John Merrill hasn't been bad his whole career.
No.
Also,
Okay,
John
so
Merrill, goal scorer. Remember?
Yeah.
He's got
I
points.
just and Bogosian, I don't understand. I love Bogosian.
Yeah,
I've loved him since the Wild have gotten him. He's just
his
he's a
slap shot from
hard-nosed
the
player.
blue line is
Yeah.
terrifying.
He's a
if you're
hard-nosed player. You need
goaltender.
those guys.
I
You
feel
need
like
a
he
few
was
of
in
them.
that movie 300, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like he's a guy that if I saw him and I was trying to get around him, I
Yeah,
would be in a fetal
no,
position.
I don't want.
That
I wouldn't be surprised if he was wearing like Roman sandals. he seems like the kind of guy
He's a good dude, man.
Yeah.
He's and all the guys say that if one guy could cook a meal for him, it'd be Bogosian on the grill, which again goes right back to that 300 narrative. Like
Yeah.
this guy
Yeah.
can go out, hunt
Kill
something
his
down
own food.
and cook it for you. And
Yeah.
it'd be gourmet.
Yeah.
So,
He's
but
an animal.
Bogo is one of, I believe, 4 players who are left that don't wear face masks. Can you guess the other
Interesting.
3? 2 of them are technically former Minnesota Wild
Yeah,
players.
I think I know one right away.
former Minnesota
That-
Wild players is got an asterisk next to it. But
I can't.
Revo.
okay, Revo's
Of
one.
course, Revo. Yeah, he was here for.
Ryan O'Reilly, former Minnesota Wild player.
Oh
for
yeah,
like,
yeah.
for like
I
five,
love that
five
play
minutes.
by you.
Yeah.
Nice play.
Yeah.
Who's the 4th?
It is another former Minnesota Wild player, Nick Delorier.
Oh, he's an animal.
No visor either.
Oh my God. Yeah. Wow.
That's like one of those really weird things that I know because I just am like obsessed with equipment for no reason.
The Laurier one doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
He is a beast. I wish he was still here. I loved watching
Yeah.
him go up there every
Delorier's cool.
night and raise hell.
He
was
fought-
fantastic.
Did he fight Bogo this year? He fought someone.
He fought.
from
Some, I
us.
think that was last year.
He fought Revo.
He
He
did
fought
fight- he
Revo this
fought
year
Revo,
too, and
yeah.
that fight delivered.
Oh God, did it ever?
Oh my god.
Old school baby.
Heavyweights.
Yeah.
Let's get more.
Yeah,
comments
yeah.
here. This
Okay,
is good.
more athletic section. This is the one that I actually might agree with. Guerin should make the team stay at a hotel the night before a home game like the Vikings used to do.
I think the Vikings still do. And
Yeah, you might be
I
right.
don't
Yeah.
know that that's a terrible idea. And I think
get the feel of the road.
we've been
Seriously,
No,
because
but
they're it's flip
It's gotten to the point now where they are completely better on the road.
Yeah,
and it's not
100%.
supposed to be that
It's
way.
not a fluke anymore.
We've got hotels all around this area.
let's do it.
You know, and
One across the street.
There you go.
Nice
they
one
could,
right there.
They could crash in my apartment.
There you
There you
go.
go.
Hey,
One
come
can
on
have
in.
the couch. One
Yeah.
can have the air mattress.
They can eat toppers.
Yeah, I can
Give
have
up your
toppers.
bed for a
Drink
Minnesota Wild
beers.
player.
What?
You wouldn't give up your bed for a
Depends on the
Minnesota Wild
player.
I'd give it up to Fleury, but that's because I respect my elders. I respect greatness.
That's
Although
fair.
if it's anyone else, probably not.
Okay.
You know what? Maybe you save that for the playoffs. And I'm not being
True.
funny. Like,
Yeah.
maybe that's it. You see how the last 6 weeks plays out, and if there's still a 500 team at home, a lot of these guys have young kids, if not babies, at home. And listen, that's a factor. I don't you know,
Yeah.
say what you want. You're going to want to help your wife out once in a while because you travel so much.
And they're humans.
They're nice guys.
they're guys.
So let's see how it plays out. I don't hate the idea, but I wouldn't do it now. I wouldn't waste it now. All of a sudden, you get in that first round, you go down and you start on the road, and let's say you get off to a good start, win a game or two in Dallas or Winnipeg or Colorado, wherever you're going, and you come back here and you throw that curveball out just the night before the game.
Yeah.
I think when the Vikings have done this at home, you know, they're at home up until a Saturday, and then like late afternoon they'll have meetings at hotel, they'll have a dinner at the hotel, they'll sleep there, and they'll go right to the stadium and play the home game. Not a terrible idea.
Who was the famous Bruins coach that used to do that for home games? I feel like it was. This is really specific, but I was listening to a Bill Guerin interview with Chicklets, and when he played in Boston,
Milbury, maybe?
Yeah, I think
Milbury was
I think
old school.
Milbury
He was
used
kind of a douche.
yeah, oh yeah, big time. But I
Yeah.
think he did the whole like if we're at home, we're staying in a hotel if
Oh.
we're losing games. I'm pretty sure I've heard that he did that.
It's
Well, I
something
think-
to keep an eye on, though.
Yeah,
the toughest thing for that would be the wives, I feel like, because how are you going to explain to your wife that you have to go stay at a hotel the night before a
It's
game?
playoff
you know?
season, baby.
That's true. So I know if I tried to pull
Because
that
it's the-
move, hey honey, I'm gonna go. Hey honey, I'm gonna go stay at the hotel next to work tonight, and I just want to get a
Yeah.
quick start. They'd be like, you know,
What's
I
the
don't know.
college football saying? It's different, or
I know which
Because
one
it's
you're
the cup.
talking. It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, there you go.
because
Let's
it's
go
the
with
cup.
that
That's
because
all you
it's
have
the
to say to
cup.
your wife.
Exactly.
It's only going to be for a couple of months.
Hey, hopefully
Yeah.
2 months. 2 months.
It's only going
You
to
know
be a
what?
couple times.
Yeah.
You're not gone the whole week.
Yeah,
It's just
true,
a night.
True.
I'm gonna say this right now. I will sacrifice my time to babysit your kids.
There we go.
There you go.
I don't know if we want
Three
Boston.
matters. If we
but
get the cup, I'm not sure they want
I
that.
think we should volunteer Jake.
Oh,
Jake,
you
I think
definitely don't
journalist
want.
Jake.
You definitely don't want Jake.
Yeah, we could have
babysitting
journalist
the
Jake do
kids.
it.
Okay, here's another one. It's doing Rossi an injustice skating with Foligno.
Really? You don't want your toughest guy out there protecting a guy that
I guess
clearly
not.
Yeah.
every team is going to go after? I mean, some of this stuff is preposterous. And
Well, the athletic comment section.
Oh
I mean,
God.
and Foligno, listen, he's not here to score 30 goals, guys. Like
Oh.
he has a role and he plays it well. And I get really aggravated by this because I understand the value that Marcus brings to this hockey team. You don't need 12 forwards to score goals.
No,
you need two or three to score goals. You need guys that can make plays like Zuccarello. Foligno, and because of injury, you're going to have a Rossi with a Foligno. When this team is healthy, that's likely not going to be the case anyway. But Marcus can play. He can skate. He can move the puck. And he's also out there to protect a guy. So
He hits.
he
does-
can,
he-
he brings
He's the leading hitter in
For sure.
franchise history.
He does everything. He can
do you
play
not love the
physical.
guy, though?
He's
Like-
got
I know.
hands. He goes into the mixer. He
Just-
throws it in the
he
mixer.
throws
I
it in
mean,
the mixer. He's
I
in the
just
mixer.
I don't get
He
it.
cares. Bottom line is
Yeah.
being around this guy, he cares tremendously, and he cares about his teammates.
Mhm.
And if he has to go out there and protect them, he will. I don't know what year it was. Was it last year, or the year before? He had a legitimate injury that he had been getting treatment on, and the docs basically said, "You can play through this, but don't fight." Well, you know what's going to happen, right? And it happened.
100%.
Yeah,
One of his
tell-
teammates
yeah.
got cheap shotted, and like a shift later, there's Marcus, risking legitimate injury, protecting one of his guys. And I'm like, this is who he is.
Yeah.
He is a heart and soul guy. Behind the scenes, he is beloved by his teammates. And so, yeah, if you're going through a stretch where you don't have a Kaprizov and you've got some injuries, if Marco Rossi has to skate with him, it's not the end of the world,
No, and like you said, big culture guy,
for sure.
huge culture guy.
And protector of Rossi if things start to go haywire. Rossi's going to get plenty of time with the go-to guys, especially on the power play. If you've watched John Hines, one thing I love about him is he's going to live or die night in, night out with his best. And that's
Yeah.
why his top power play plays 90 seconds, because he realizes, like, listen, if we're going to win this hockey game, that's the group that's got to get it done. Your best players have to carry the mail, and he gives them the opportunity to do that. And so Marco's going to get plenty of opportunity with those high-end guys. So I wouldn't sweat that at all, but that's just me.
You guys remember that story where I think once again Mr. Russo reported where like before one of the road games, I don't remember which one it was. It might have been one of the Carolina games. Zuccarello went up to Rossi. He's like, "Hey, you should try passing this game and see what happens." And Rossi's like, "Okay, 3 assists."
Yeah,
and I think he had a goal later too. Like, it's just crazy that he's that versatile. And having a guy like Zuccarello. Another funny Zuccarello story: when Kaprizov was hurt and that first line was Boldy, Kaprizov, Zuccarello. Zuccarello and Boldy and Rossi were using iPads, and Zuccarello was getting pissed because he uses the whiteboard, and he's like, "I don't use like the iPad."
He's old school.
It's like Tom Brady with the iPads. He just doesn't use them.
No, and again, he has the respect of Marco. Marco understands the credibility that a Zuccarello brings to the table.
Yeah.
And you watch this group, the way they practice. Zuccarello's another guy that's out on that ice 30, 40 minutes. Him and Kaprizov doing all these skill games. He can move the puck like nobody I've seen. He's the best passer of the puck this team maybe has ever had. Like, he's that guy.
Yeah.
And so when he makes that statement to a guy like Rossi, who's just like a sponge, right? This kid, he's just trying to figure all this out, and he cares. Like, this kid cares. And so he's going to try it. Right?
Yeah.
And it works out, right? I mean, it's funny because, you're taught to get the puck to the net, to shoot. And when you're a go-to guy like Rossi has been wherever he's played all his life, you get into that habit. But there are other things he can do because of his rink vision. Zuccarello probably senses that, and now there's another whole layer to his game that's waiting to kind of be catapulted into the mix.
Yep.
Zuccarello is such an underrated part to the Wild. Like, he has been since he's came here. He's such a good player.
I mean, especially playoff time, you need that
such
guy.
a good player.
Kirill is Kirill, but I'm going to tell you, he is exponentially better when he's out there with Matt Zuccarello, and that's because of the way Zuccarello plays the game.
Yep.
Zuccarello and Kaprizov have talked about how they see the game the same way, they feel the game the same way, and some of the passes they
You can tell. I mean, you can tell. They just know where
like
each
the
other
Sedin
are.
brothers. And
Yeah,
they're
they
not
know.
twins, right?
Yeah.
They're separated by many years, and they joke about it all the time. They just have that feel to the game where they actually see the plays the same way.
It's ridiculous.
They don't have to even know they're there.
No.
They just put the puck where they think they should be, and lo and behold, there's their
It's
guy.
ridiculous sometimes, the behind the back passes Zook does. And all
how
of
do
a
they
sudden
know where those
it's
are going?
Literally right to him. I'm like, holy.
Right on the stick.
Whoa,
Right on
no.
the tape.
wavelength. And so, you look at Kirill's, what he's been able to do and where this thing is going. And I'm telling you, when he comes back at the end of this year, I want to see that magic. I want to see, we call him peanut butter and jelly for a reason. That to me is such a weapon for Minnesota.
Yeah.
And it gets magnified when they get these power play situations, because then they've got the space to really go out and make that magic, and they do every time.
Yep. All right, our fourth comment here from the Athletic comment section. More excuses, period. Is Boldy still on the team, question mark?
Come on.
Okay, next. Because I mean, the Boldy hate is so forced to me. It's so forced. It's like,
Does he need to score 60? I mean,
yeah, right. What do you want?
Really?
He's 23, man. He's 23 playing in a tough league. What more do you want from the guy?
I
just
think
don't
Minnesota
understand it.
fans are. Sometimes you just have to reach for things.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard to
that one's
I mean, seriously. I mean, come on. Well, what are we asking for? And
Let's trade the guy we just signed to a 7-year deal to. That makes a lot of sense.
Oh,
guys.
huge. Yeah.
I mean,
he's validated his talent in these last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can see now just how good this guy is. Does that mean he's going to score a goal every night? No. Remember, there's a pretty damn good team on the other side that knows, especially right now with Kaprizov out, that if they put their best out there against Boldy and Rossi, they're trying to shut them down. They know when they come into a particular game with the Wild right now, if they shut those two guys down, they beat the Wild.
Yeah.
And so he's having to go through layers of defense just like Kirill did
Yep.
when he was trying to, and Kirill had great stretches, but there's going to be dips. There's going to be a week where you don't put the puck in the net. Things happen. If he didn't care, if he didn't back check, if he didn't play hard, Matt Boldy does all those things. Like, he punches in every single night. You can see the frustration when things aren't going his way because of the passion he brings to the table. That, to me, if I'm a fan, then I'll send a note like that. Like, this guy needs to be better. Stats are stats.
Yeah.
If the guy works hard, That's all you can ask
Yeah.
for. They're gonna every player in the league's gonna go through stretches where the puck doesn't go in.
Well, and he's only going up too, because the big gripe with him last year, I remember that Billy told him, is like, you need to be more physical. You need to get in those greasy areas, the way you mentioned, the way NHL hockey is.
And he does.
He's getting better at that.
Getting better, but
this
he needs to get to the middle of the rink more. And you're seeing signs of that. And I think that's the next step in his game. Like right now, he's already a 30-goal scorer just falling out of bed because of how good he is and how hard he works. The next level for Matt Boldy, to me, is being able to get to the middle of the rink more consistently. And I'll use Rossi as the example. Rossi's in the middle of the rink more than Boldy. Boldy will get there. He loves to use that space, and he's so damn good on the wall. So I get why he plays the way he does. Once he's able to trigger that middle of the rink game and go to the blue paint, get a rebound or two, there's a 40 to 50 goal scorer in this guy, and I believe it, and I think it's coming.
Yeah. I'm starting to think some of these commenters are just other fans trolling us. But all right, final one here. I'm glad Billy G brought in all these tough guys and an assistant coach who'd fix the power play, ... Like the Billy G haters,
That's another
that
one
one
that's
blows my
forced.
mind. Like,
Oh my god.
what
Like you look at so the Wild have had two of their most successful seasons in franchise history under the guy. They're on pace for another one, and
with one hand tied behind their back,
yes,
terrible
with one hand.
contracts,
And we want to
signed
get rid of
by
him. Just say let's
a
fire Billy
previous
G.
GM.
Let's hire that guy. Whoever
And I-
posts
listen,
the comment.
If I try to, for a second, take a step back and understand some of the frustration,
Sure,
it's all about playoffs. And Billy has
Yes.
said it's all about
Yes.
winning, and I agree it is. But let's also understand that this team the last couple of years has had more man games lost from some of their key players than any team in the league.
Yes.
I thought last year we had seen it all. We're going through it again this year.
yeah, even worse this year somehow.
This year's almost worse, but we're better.
Yeah,
I don't.
Well, and remember, they're playing 15 million short, and Billy made that decision, so that's
Yeah,
fair.
for
I
sure.
get that.
Yep.
But they're on pace right now to eclipse 100 points for the third time in the last 4 years,
Mhm.
and they are a team that has young talent assembled, not just here now, not just in Iowa, but we've mentioned some of the names of players that are coming, starting with Zeev probably in April. So let's let this thing play out. You can be critical of the GM. If another 5 years goes by and they still haven't got out of the first round, I'll line up with you. It's not happening. I'm going
Right.
to tell you right now. And listen, I'm not on FanDuel Sports right now. I'm with you guys. I can say whatever the hell I want. I'm going to tell you right now, in my heart of hearts, this team is going to make a run. There is a cup run coming, and I believe it because partly I believe in Bill Guerin. I believe in what he knows and what he feels and what he sees, and I love the moves he's made. I love some of the aggressive moves this guy has made. That being said, now we're going to have some freedom here. We're going to have that money coming off the books. Let's see how creative he can be this coming summer, and let's see where this team can go, because they're already, in my opinion, good enough to make a run right now, but they will be better in the next 2 years than they are right now.
Well, look what he's done with Team USA.
Yeah.
He's assembled a dream team there.
And the time he puts in, I'll tell you, about a month ago, we were in Toronto playing the Maple Leafs, and we're at morning skate, and the Maple Leafs finished their skate, and I'm walking out to see the Wild on the ice, and there's Bill Guerin in a one-on-one with Austin Matthews. I mean, this is the kind of street cred this guy has. Austin Matthews sticks around on a game day to talk to Bill Guerin and to go over some of the planning for the. I didn't know what they were talking about. I just saw that they were spending a half an hour together having a coffee, getting ready for the Four Nations. If you know, and I know you guys know Billy, I know he's been in here, and you guys have a great relationship. If you spend 5 minutes with this guy, you understand how much he cares and how much he wants to win. And then the guy that he has to report to, Craig Leopold, I've told this story before. Mr. Leopold's nice enough every year during the preseason to pick out a preseason game and invite all of us that cover the team on the media side to come sit in his suite, have a meal, and watch a preseason game. So this is preseason hockey, right? You got 3 or 4 of your veteran players out there. You got a couple young prospects, but basically it's a throwaway game. It's a preseason game. And this guy watching the preseason game, you'd think it was Game 7 of the Stanley Cup. He cares more. Like the only thing Craig Leopold wants for the Minnesota Wild and for this town is a cup. So you've got an owner and a GM that all they care about, all they know about is winning. So I understand the frustration on one side. I've lived here all my life. I am a Minnesota sports fan. But I also understand that you have to look at it and take a step back and say, where is this thing going? And I truly believe they are going to spend every nickel up to the cap every single year. And you got a guy in Bill Guerin that's going to make shrewd moves to make this team better. And so now it's up to the guys. Like, you're going to be put in a position where this team on paper is going to be a legitimate cup favorite the next couple of years. Now it's up to the guys to get the job done, and I think it'll happen.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah,
You guys fired up after that?
I kind of want to run through a brick wall right now.
Wait till Thursday. We'll all be running through brick walls
That's
when we
what
watch
will
that
save
game.
the brick walls.
And I hope they give us a little snippet of behind the scenes. I mean, the interviews are great, but I want a coach mic'd up in that locker room. I want to hear that passion. To me, that's the game within the game. And that's if we're going to sell professional hockey, if we're going to grow the game, bring us inside that room. Take us where we normally can't get to. And I'm fascinated with how this thing is going to play out. The opening shift, the opening 5 minutes, the vigor, the Kachuks, and how Canada's going to handle it if that crowd starts to taunt them. And it's going to be a fascinating night of hockey. And it's one of those nights where you just know, with the best players in the world all assembled together with the gold or the trophy, whatever they're going to call it, on the line, that it's going to feel like a Stanley Cup game. And you don't get that very often, in the middle of February.
They should all just watch Miracle before they play.
The guys have talked about that. There's been a couple of videos going around on social media where some of the U.S. guys were talking about their favorite line from that movie.
Hell yeah.
And, it's one of those movies that every time I watch it, I get goosebumps. Still,
100%.
Still to this day, I get goosebumps. And it takes me back to a time in my life when I was 13 years old. And it was a Friday night. My birthday had been on a Wednesday. My birthday's the 20th. It was the 22nd. And so I'm having a group of my hockey player buddies to come over. We're going to have pizza, play knee hockey, and watch the game. But people forget, the game was on at 8 o'clock Minnesota time that night on ABC. The game had happened 4 hours earlier. It was on radio during the day.
It was a rerun.
It was a rerun, but nobody knew that except for, the real hardcore idiots like me. So I'd sat there and listened to the game all afternoon. When my buddies arrived and my parents sat me down and said, "You cannot spill the beans. You've got to keep the secret." And I don't have a great poker face, but that night I somehow kept it together because I wanted to see the reaction of these guys. And so here we are eating our pizza, the puck drops, and I get to watch the game that I'd listened to all afternoon after school play out in front of me in real time. And we had a hog pile in the living room. There's like 8 of us, these kids just like going crazy, throwing stuff. It was one of those nights as a kid where you're like, everything came together. It was the greatest birthday party of my life. And then I'll never forget my dad being a really pessimistic Minnesota sports fan. He'd fit in great if he could handle technology on the Athletic. So we go to church Sunday morning. And we're leaving church and we're going to go back. The game was at 11 o'clock in the morning. We went to 8 o'clock mass. And he said, "Kevin, I just want you to understand that they're likely going to lose this game." So Herb Brooks said, "Take it to your grave." And my dad's already setting me up for the other shoe to drop when they're going to lose and not get the gold medal. And so they were losing the whole game. And my dad, I must have said it 50 times. I told you, like just vintage Minnesota sports fan. Oh man.
We were trying to re-manifest that last night against Sweden. We tried to pull out that line a few times, even though last night's game didn't matter.
It was still kind of fun.
It was
to
still
play
kind of like
game.
it'd be fun to win this game, I guess. So
and they almost pulled it off. They did, but they did it the right way.
They were getting good shots though last night.
No, they were
so many good chances.
No, that kid played well for Sweden. I mean, no one saw that coming either.
Flyers goalie, right?
Third string guy, right?
We had to look that up. We were like, okay.
Torts is probably going like, "Where's this been all year?" Because he hasn't had that great a year in Philly, so that probably frustrated Torts.
Well, and how like cursed has their goaltending situation been since the Carter Hardish incident? Like,
it's been a disaster because that team's got some talent,
right?
They've got a group of young, skilled players, but they can't stop the puck, and if you can't get goaltending in this league, you're going to get let up, and you're not going to be able to consistently win.
We were kind of talking yesterday about how funny it is that like Canada's best goalie is Jordan Binnington. Not that he's bad or he's got the pedigree. He was ice hot or red hot in the Stanley Cup finals.
He was great.
But it's funny because we were saying all these kids now grow up wanting to be like Bedard and to be like McDavid, and they want to be these quick skill players, and no one wants to goaltend in Canada anymore.
Which is shocking to me.
Yeah,
because it's for a long time you couldn't find American goalies that were that good, and now you look at. So let's just use the top 5. I'll even be conservative.
Yeah,
I would say Ottinger and Hellebuck are in that group for sure. Top 5 in the world,
right?
And they're 2 of the top 5 on the planet, and they're both U.S. And for a long time, Richter was an exception for sure. Tom Barrasso was a guy you looked at as star power, but Canada's always had way more depth at that position. And it's something to think about as you look forward now to the NHL guys playing in the Olympics. Hellebuck's still in his prime. Andre hasn't even reached his prime, which is scary.
Yeah.
For the Lakeville kid. So the U.S. has that leg up right now, and until Canada figures that out, they're going to be up against it. And that, to me, is, as we talked about on the front end of this conversation, is still the one advantage the U.S. has. You look at that roster for Canada now that Makar likely plays. Canada is the better team on paper, but goaltending matters. And in a one-game format, you'll take Hellebuck over Bennington every single time.
Yeah.
You have to.
That's if it comes down to goaltending. Yeah,
I think
the
it
U.S.
will.
wins the game for sure.
And in a one-goal game, I think it will.
Yeah. Well, Zuch had a game for you that I think you should have fun with. Blind rankings. You ever done blind rankings?
Ever done blind rankings?
No.
So I'm going to give you 5. We're going to do 5 Minnesota hockey arenas. Can be any level, but there's going to be 5 hockey arenas. You're going to rank them 1 through 5.
So you have to guess where you think.
Yeah, you have to rank them 1 through 5.
without
but I'm
knowing
going to
what's
read them
next.
Yes, you don't know what's coming next. So I'm going to give you a rink. You'll rank it, and then I'll give you the next one. You'll rank it, but you can't change any of the rankings. So,
Okay.
all right. The first one, the Mayo Clinic Health System Event Center in Mankato.
It's one of the top 5?
Yep.
Well, there's 5 rinks I'm giving you.
So you have
you're
to
going to rank those in 1 through 5.
So where would you?
It's
guess
not
that
my
would
top
fall?
5. These are just 5
I'm
rinks.
putting it at 5.
You're putting it at... Damn, okay. Amsoil Arena.
I like Amsoil. 3.
Good answer.
Okay.
Good answer.
Okay.
I'll go 3.
Graduate.
The XL Energy Center.
Listen, I mean this sincerely. I've traveled throughout the league for years. I can't believe how nice that building still is.
Yep.
I've only been in one nicer building, so I'm going to have to be careful here. I would normally put it at 1 with a bullet, but there is a rink that I've been to. Oh, actually, it's not in Minnesota. So I was talking about the Ralph. So I'll go 1.
Man,
Ralph,
you had. No, I'm glad you pay the respect to the building.
And I'm not a North Dakota guy.
It's such a good
I am
rink.
sorry. That building is
Unbelievable.
spectacular. But in Minnesota, nothing gets better for me than XL.
Okay.
I love that building.
All right.
I'm glad you said that though, because you can hate us and our team, but you got to respect the walls of the Ralph.
Yeah.
At
Oh,
least.
yeah.
That place is
Marble.
incredible.
Even the old Ralph or
Taco in a
whatever.
bag. I'm telling you, the taco in
the
the bag
smell
there.
of the walnuts, the roasted nuts.
Oh, I love it. All right.
All right. The 4th one, Herb Brooks National Hockey Center.
I'm a Herb Brooks guy. I like the building. It's a fun building. Dog pound, the whole thing. I'm still going 4 because I think there's one more in there.
Unbelievable. The Burnsville Ice Center.
Yes. Yes.
Unbelievable.
I am going to tell you right now, I was back there about a month ago. They were celebrating the 40th anniversary of our state championship. And walking in that building, even though we don't have a high school team anymore, it's a combo deal, which is a conversation for another day. Yeah.
You didn't know
Apple
that?
Valley.
Apple Valley.
There's no numbers.
And Apple Valley and Burnsville for
It's
that
the rivals for crying out
It's
loud.
unbelievable.
The rink is as beautiful now as it ever has been. It's one of the warmer rinks in the state. You know, I look at Braemar, Burnsville, Aldrich. These are staples for me. And certainly growing up in Burnsville, I'm going to be partial to our arena. I'm glad I put the X number 1 because I love the X.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. I thought I'd get you to maybe. God, I thought I'd get you to go 5.
I couldn't do it.
You knew it was
I was
coming.
not gonna. I didn't know Burnsville was coming. I thought Braemar might be in there. And,
See,
I love that
Burnsville is
barn.
an unbelievable arena.
It is.
I just watched my little sister's a goalie. I just watched her. She plays for Farmington, and she
Nice.
played there. And I was watching her, and that's where the game was. And I was like, unbelievable. This rink hasn't changed. It's still awesome.
It stood the test of time, and that's the thing. You know, the
Such
same
a
thing
cool
with the
build
X.
too.
Yeah,
Like
it's a different look with the wooden, the arched rope, the scoreboard in the middle.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
And the fans are right on top of
Oh,
the
they're
ice. You know,
they're
like
right
you've
on
got
ya.
those yellow benches,
Yep.
and they're literally right. You know,
Yep.
it's a steep. Yeah, it's a cool place to watch a hockey game. The fact that Burnsville and Apple Valley are combined, you have to kind of look the other way with that. It's numbers, and I'm sure it'll circle back at some point. I was just over at Bloomington Ice Gardens for a youth hockey event the Wild put on. Place was packed. It's still a great building, and this time of year, if you're a fan of the game, get out to Braemar, get out to Bloomington Ice Gardens, go to Aldrich, go watch these section playoff games. There's nothing like it. We are so spoiled to have these games in our backyard. And if it's Stillwater or White Bear against Hill Murray in a section final, and Aldrich is going to have 4,000 fans packed in there, you're going to spend $10 to go to the hockey game, right?
I got to
You can't
experience
beat that. You can't beat that for entertainment. A section final to me is more pressure packed than a state tournament because when you walk into that building that night, you got two teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Half are going to realize their childhood dream, half are going to see
Yeah.
their high school hockey careers come to an end. And for some, that's the last game they play. Everything, all the chips are on the table and all that pressure's there. And you got the bands playing. It's the time of your life.
Mhm.
And you've got this oasis, this XL Energy Center, the state tournament, the TV, the whole thing. It's all right there if you can win one more game.
Yeah.
And the tears and the emotion and it brings out the best in high school hockey
Yeah.
players. So in these next couple of weeks, you owe it to yourself to get out and watch these games. They're incredible.
My dad, we have a picture in my dad's office. My brother played on the 2019 White Bear team that beat Hill and
That's
made it
the
to
game,
state.
right? That's
Oh,
the game.
It was honestly, it's one of the best hockey games I ever went to.
Oh.
Both sides were packed. It was raucous
It
in
was
there.
sold out like
it was.
midday before.
Yes.
Yeah, you had
Yeah.
to get your ticket.
I
the week
remember
off.
hearing that and going, "Dad, did you get enough for us to go watch this? Because I really want to be there." But there's a picture hanging in there of Charlie Stramel, or not Charlie Stramel, Strobel. Charlie Strobel.
Yes.
Standing over Remington Keppel. And he's got his hand on him like this. And my brother and all his buddies are up on the wall. The last year they could do it because they raised the boards
Of
up.
course they did.
And they're hanging on the boards. Well, that next year, Remington and Charlie won the state title. So they lost it. That was the lowest of the low. And the next season,
Come back
they
the
won
next
the
year
whole
and win
damn
the whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a special time of year to be a hockey fan in this area. We've got hockey everywhere you look.
Mhm.
You know, and once the college playoffs start in these conferences, make the trip up to the Ralph. Go up to Amsoil.
Yeah.
Get to the National Hockey Center. They are
Yeah.
huge games. They're a huge series. You know, we're treated within a couple of hours of dozens and
Mhm.
dozens of big games right in our neighborhood. So make use of it. You know, like I said when we first started talking, if you love the game, this is the best time of
Yeah.
year. And I think, you know, Thursday night we're going to get treated to what we normally see in the middle of summer, right? A Stanley Cup playoff environment with, you know, a trophy on the line where these guys are going to be literally giving everything they got, sacrificing their bodies for this incredible opportunity on this big stage. You know, we're going to soak it all up because we're Rubes. We love the game.
Yep.
And that just leads into all these other great games that are coming down the pike.
Did you guys see the Jack Eichel quote today?
I did not.
So
did
they asked him how this game ranks in most important games of his life, and he said probably number one.
Wow.
Yeah.
He said over
Guys won a cup.
Yeah.
Stanley
He's
Cup
played in the Stanley Cup.
and a national championship with
Yeah.
Boston,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And
Did he
he-
win one with BU?
Yes.
I don't know.
He at least
did?
played in one.
I know he played in one.
but
The
he-
cup thing is incredible.
Yeah.
But
right?
he
Like, that's
said
incredible.
he said this is right up there with those, if not more important. That was what the quote was. So that just shows, and this isn't even the Olympics yet.
No,
Like
wait,
this,
Yeah, wait till
if
we get to the
anything,
Olympics.
this is like preseason for what we get in a year.
Yeah, right.
It's gonna be freaking awesome.
And I'm glad that, you know, you got to do, if you're going to do this, this is a precursor to will the Olympics work? Well, of course they will.
Yeah,
Like
damn
you look
right.
how much these guys care.
Yeah.
Of course they will. And for the most part, and again, knock on wood, we haven't seen a lot of big injuries. And
Yeah.
you know, I know McAvoy, the Bruins defenseman's got a little something. I don't think it's overly serious.
Did Shea
But,
Theodore in the first game?
yep.
That was tough.
Well, but that's the
that-
Vegas way. Now they'll rest him to the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
no,
that was- salary to bring
perfect.
another
guy.
Wasn't it Theodore too who took out Jiracek against us?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Eye for an eye.
Unbelievable.
But you're right. This just made it way easier for them to circumvent the cap. so-
Unbelievable. Played right into their hands.
Golden platter.
Unbelievable.
Golden Knights.
I do have one more question. Who would be your game of the week for these high school sections coming up? Because there are some interesting matchups in this first round.
I want to see Shakopee validate what we thought
Okay.
before the year. This is a program that, going back to when I played, they could barely put a team together, and now they've become one of the powers in the state. They're ranked in the top 10. Head coach Calvin's a great dude. They hosted Hockey Day. They crushed it. I want to see if Shakopee can validate the pressure of being the team to beat and get through some of these blue blood programs like in Eden Prairie to get to state. So if I can be treated to that matchup at some point,
Mhm.
but I will go back to what I've always said. In the state of Minnesota, there are two games that stand out whenever they play bigger and better than anybody else. Warroad Roseau,
Mhm.
White Bear Hill.
Yeah.
And I get it. Stillwater's got a great team. Selfishly, I want White Bear and Hill
I do too.
on that section final. And if I can get to one game come section time, I want to be at Aldrich Arena
Yep.
for that rivalry with those two programs. There is nothing like it in the Twin Cities, and I want it. I want to see that section final.
White Bear's got a goalie. That's all I'll say.
He might be the best goalie in
he's
the
a
state. He
stud.
might win the Frank Brimzik.
He might break the all-time record of shutouts for high
And
schoolers. In
in a one-game setup. We know Hill Murray's better.
Yes.
And by the way, we might have missed the game of the year last weekend. I unfortunately, not
870.
unfortunately, I was watching my best buddy's Mike Luckcraft. He's the head coach at Northfield. And I get to a game every year.
No, I can't. I'm just kidding. I played at Red
Wing. I
Wing.
missed out on Moorhead Hill Murray. Cullen's got 2 guys on the team, stud players. Moorhead comes down. Hill Murray's ranked 2. Moorhead's ranked 1. Moorhead gets down 2-0 in the hockey game, scores 7 of the next 9 goals. They lead 7-4 in the third period. Hill Murray storms back with 3 to tie it and wins it in overtime in an 8-7 throwback
I saw
to something from
I
the
saw
1980s.
that goal on video.
Unbelievable, right?
Sweet.
So that might have been, as far as regular season games, the game of the year in boys high school hockey. Something tells me, whether it's White Bear Hill, whether it's an Eden Prairie Shakopee, Edina Wyzetta, there are going to be some unbelievable games here in the Twin Cities. So, get to that Hockey Hub website, track out your game plan. As we're talking tonight, sections have started.
Yeah, they're kicking off.
By this weekend, I think Saturday afternoon, between Bloomington Ice Gardens and Braemar, there's double dips at both rinks that are going to be semifinal games already. It's going to be awesome.
My favorite tradition of the high school state hockey tournament is when everyone's filling out their brackets, and then there's responses to that saying we should be able to gamble on this, and someone else responds to that and says they're kids, and then the original person's like, oh yeah, right.
Well,
that happens every single year.
I'm glad you mentioned Shakopee. That is a program that's really, they're coming up. I mean, I think it was my junior season down in Red Wing. We played them. We won 3 games all season, and 2 of them were against Shakopee.
No kidding.
And they were a AA school. We were single A. I mean, we played in a tough conference, but still, we won 3 games.
Amazing.
2 of them against Shakopee.
And they've come a long way.
They have
built that beautiful new rink at the community center.
Very, very nice.
When they played in my area, it was a bubble. I mean, they've come so far.
Yeah.
And getting to know their coaching staff, they're great people. This is a community that's really all in on their hockey team. It'd be cool to see them get there.
Yep.
Problem is, man, Eden Prairie's playing their best hockey. And watching Eden Prairie that day through our broadcast from Valley Fair, Eden Prairie looks like the type of team that's going to be a real problem for Shakopee. They can defend. They're physical. They're smart without the puck. That, to me, is going to be – I think we're going to get that matchup in that section final, and that's going to be one of those classic, could go to overtime type of games. So I'll be tracking all of that. And this year I'm working the state tournament for Channel 45. When Lou Nanny
nice.
Mic, right? Those are huge shoes to fill. So there's a bunch of us that are going to try to pick up the slack and fill in for the Godfather. And so I'm really looking forward to being a part of it this year and being down there at the arena and taking all of it in because, you walk in there, it's still got the it factor.
Yeah.
Like there, now it's the hockey hair thing that takes over and all that good stuff around it. It's a really, really cool time to be in St. Paul. The restaurants and bars are jam-packed. And then you walk in that building, the bands are, and the kids are taunting, and it's just that secret sauce you look for is still there.
I went for the first time last year, I went to that single A games on Friday.
Yeah.
Blast.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Blast.
Great hockey.
Underrated. A lot of open
Single is very
a
underrated.
lot of open seats to sit in. It's
very
not
underrated.
like double A where you have to pack in and find a seat
Great
somewhere.
hockey, too.
Yeah, it's
Phenomenal
amazing.
hockey.
I think we watched last year was it War Road and Matamidi maybe?
Yeah, that's a game.
I think it was.
That, and it went to overtime.
Yeah.
I think
it's
both
phenomenal.
of the games on Friday went to overtime.
I got to watch when Ben Myers was playing with Delano. I got to watch him get upset by Monticello when they went on that
right, the
magical
Magic.
run.
Yes.
And I remember sitting there going, me and my buddies, because I kind of grew up in the Anoka area, so we played Monticello growing up, and we were like, Monticello? These guys have never been good.
Never.
And they showed up, and we were watching the game, like, that first line, they're no joke, and they
How about
carried them the
Rogers
whole way.
now?
Yeah.
When did they get good? They're
Another
phenomenal.
team I played growing up.
They tied Moorhead last week.
Yeah, they are
Where did
unbelievable.
this come from?
Yeah, they were horrible my entire life.
And now they're a top 10
Yes,
team in the
top-
state.
yeah.
They're likely going to make a run to the tournament. It's
Just like
kinda
Andover,
cool.
too, though. They weren't very good for a while, and then
They had their run.
Yeah, they have their
How about that championship game? Looking back when they
Yeah.
played Maple Grove a few
Oh,
years
and
ago.
in overtime.
All those celebrations going back and forth. It was a
Well, it's a
6-5
conference
game.
rival too.
Yes.
I don't know if they are anymore, but they used to be a conference.
Was it like
rival.
10 minutes into overtime or something? It was
classic.
It was
amazing
The game
game.
went forever, and then eventually Andover scored.
And it
That was-
rivals the
They all had
EP
blonde
and-
hair.
They all had the hair dyed.
The blonde mullet. They were kind of like the ones who started.
It's one of the few games that rivals. Well, in the last like 15 years, that really rivals that EP UP and Duluth East game with
That
Kyle
went to-
Rao scoring the
Yeah.
wacky goal. I mean, it rivals it. Those
Yeah,
Dude,
there's been
imagine-
some great
oh,
games.
you know.
Well, and it goes back to Apple Valley, Duluth East.
that was the other one I thought
The
of.
all-timer with
Six,
four
four
overtimes.
overtimes.
Crazy.
Kids are
Carl
Isn't there a
Daring.
conspiracy with that one? Did a puck go through the net?
There might have been a puck, but this was before replay.
Well,
And so yeah,
it
it's
looks like it though. And then the replays I've seen, or not replays, but like the footage I've watched, I'm like, that puck was
It was
in the
before
net.
HD, too,
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah.
So
Well,
even if
yeah, it
you
could have
had a
been.
review,
Yep.
it was a different era of television. So yeah, it
had everything though.
the
That's
tournament
just a
brings it
classic.
still. It still has that whole all that juice you look for, you hope for.
Yep.
It still has that. Like that's the beauty of the state tournament, and I look forward to it every year. Like I have all my life. From the time I was a little kid, that weekend was always one of those weekends on the calendar where you knew you put your time aside because you had to be a part of it, even if you're only just watching it from home. You were going to punch in and
Yep.
dive into the state tournament.
Well, and you're in the winners club too.
Yeah.
You're in the
4
elite.
years ago,
The
which
elite
is
circle.
sad to
40
say.
years ago.
In fact, it's so cool. I was talking to
That's
my buddy
awesome.
Lucky, the coach at
Okay.
Northfield. If they end up getting to the championship game, it's 40 years to the day when we won it, and he'd be on the bench. I'd be covering the game.
Wow.
I'd be back in the building.
How long has he been coaching over there? at
See, this is
Northfield?
his 11th year. He's now the winningest coach in the history of Northfield hockey.
he's turned that program.
He's turned it around, and
my,
he's
yeah.
got some really good young players.
Mhm.
He's got a defenseman by the name of Geiger. He wears number
Yep,
2.
Ben, right? Ben Geiger.
Ben Geiger. He's a sophomore.
Yep.
He's 6'3", and he skates like Jonas Brodin. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
You. This kid is silky smooth. If they get there, and they're the 1 seed in their section, they got to get through a very good Wasika team who's got 21 wins. If
Hey,
Northfield
and Red
gets
Wing
there,
too. Don't sleep on.
Never sleep on the wingers, the purple,
Never
Johnny
sleep on-
Bull.
Don't
the
sleep on the
history.
wingers. Hey,
The
they're
Wingers
the
are
eight,
gonna
they're
be
the
up
9
against it
seed
against Northfield, but that's all right.
That's okay.
Great
Watch out for this
casino
Geiger
Great
kid.
casino town.
This kid will be, I'll say it right now, he will be the player to watch if they
Yeah.
get there. He is that good. He looks like not only a Division I player, but if he keeps, improving and competing, he could be an NHL player before it's all said and done. I loved watching him last week.
No, it's fun because Lourdes, when I was going through high school, God, they dominated that section, and it was Northfield finally towards the end of it. They were like the team to beat, and you're like, okay, I can deal with Northfield. Not
Because they had been
Roger
bad,
Lewis.
right? They had been bad.
And they have they gotten a new arena yet? Have they come up with?
It's coming. It's a
Okay,
year
good,
away.
good.
And they still have that obnoxious, we call it the Pepsi Center. It's so cold, dude.
Dude, that
It's so
arena is
cold.
the locker rooms. We had to use 2 locker rooms to suit our teams up with. Like we'd show up. And we didn't have a big team.
They're so
Oh, they're so
small.
small.
it's
You would sit there and you'd go over and their student section standing right above you, and you're just like, oh, my
Probably smells
God.
great after the game.
Oh yeah, it was amazing.
Ice cold though. It's really,
It's
really
cold.
cold.
It's cold.
Well, hell, I played there when I played in college at St. Thomas.
Oh,
That
my
was St. Olaf's
goodness.
home rink. Now they've got a beautiful new rink, but
Yeah.
it's something to see. And they needed a new rink, and they're getting.
I'm glad they got it because
Yeah.
that was talk even when I was in school playing them. It's like, oh, they're going to need a
Long
new rink
overdue.
or some,
Yeah, long
So-
overdue.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, thank you so much.
Boys,
for,
what a
this has been a
pleasure.
blast.
What a pleasure.
We covered all of it. I know we
Yeah.
could probably talk for like 10 hours.
And-
But
Yeah.
And we're gonna again. I think we'll have a chance to circle back.
yeah.
Whether it's April, May, June, talk a little playoff hockey. Let's.
Yes.
Well, we
let's
could,
do this
yeah.
again.
We couldn't have timed this out any better about
This
a
was
month
pretty good
ago,
timing.
knowing that 4 Nations, that we were going to be playing Canada and that the state tournament was coming up. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well done, guys.
Hopefully, we're still talking hockey in June.
that'd
That's
be nice.
the plan, right? That's
That'd
the
be cool.
plan. I think we're gonna again. Maybe it's not this year, but in the next couple of years, I think we're gonna have a chance to see this team really make a run. And maybe it is. Like this team has proven already they can beat the upper echelon, and I'm excited to see where this thing goes. And I think we're getting a little taste of it during this 4 Nations with how good some of our players are, knowing that our best player is still on the mend.
Yep.
And you've got all these guys starring in the 4 Nations, and they're a part of that core that can make that run that we're craving. So good
Yeah.
stuff.
Great stuff.